The dramatic announcement that is coming from US President Donald Trump, claiming one of the most daring search and rescue operations in the American history. We got him. This is what he announced, confirming that a second crew member from the downed F-15E, a senior officer, has been successfully rescued from deep inside Iran. Now, according to the US President, the airman was trapped behind the enemy lines in the mountains, hunted by Iranian forces as the US commanders tracked his every move and planned a high-risk extraction from Iran. At his direction, he goes on to say that dozens of US aircraft and elite forces were deployed in what he calls was a complex multi-layer search and rescue operation. The president also revealed that another pilot had been rescued earlier, but that operation was kept secret to protect the final extraction as far as the second pilot is concerned. He has also gone on to claim that this is the first time in the US military memory that two pilots have been rescued separately from deep inside the enemy territory, that is Iran. And in a strong message now, the president has said, and I quote, "We will never leave an American warfighter behind." He has also asserted that these operations prove what he calls a complete overhaul of Iranian military and the dominance of the US air over Iran. In fact, we have a breaking update coming in. Even as the rescue missions unfolded, there were moments where it nearly spiraled into a much bigger crisis. Reports now claim that two US aircraft were left stranded inside Iran during the operation, with Iranian forces closing in the risk that, in fact, not just to the personnel, but also to the sensitive military technology on board those aircrafts. The response was swift and calculated. We are learning that the United States deployed additional aircraft into the war zone to evacuate all the troops and crew from the specific area, and then came the final step. Once, in fact, the pilots were safely taken out of that area, that disabled aircraft F-15E, it was destroyed by the US forces. The reason is simple, and it is to ensure that no equipment, no system, no technology could fall into Iranian hands. This was not just a rescue. This was a controlled exit from the enemy territory, that is Iran. A mission where even the machines were not left behind because they would have revealed the secrets, the technology of the United States. So that's a breaking update that we're learning as far as the rescue operation is also concerned. We have another breaking update coming in. In fact, as far as IRGC is concerned, war of versions on the rescue operation, because now IRGC, that is Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, has claimed that US aircraft shot down. They have said that a rescue jet was also targeted and it was shot down in Isfahan. Now, that's one of the cities where they claim that the rescue aircraft that had come in to locate the pilot in question, that was shot down by them. Iran has called this a defeat, a war of version that we can see, in fact, after the statement that is coming from IRGC. Now, even as the United States claim a successful rescue, a sharply contrasting version is now emerging from Iran. IRGC has now claimed that it has shot down a US aircraft that was part of the rescue operation. On that, let me go across to our consulting editor, Shinjoy Chaudhary. Shinjoy, take us through what has happened till now, because now IRGC is claiming that one of the aircrafts that came to rescue the pilots in question, it was also shot down in the Iranian territory. Give us more details on this.
Yes, first of all, this is a story of narratives. The Americans are triumphant. They say that their pilot was shot down and two of them were rescued. The first was rescued a while ago and his rescue was kept secret. The second was subsequently rescued after enormous effort. And that is being seen as a huge triumph, because this was under adverse conditions in Iranian territory, in a very difficult geographically location, and also after a long while, perhaps 36 hours. So it is a triumph of technology and win. There is no doubt. On the other hand, the Iranians are also saying that they have won, and they have won because a rescue plane that came to pick up the pilot was also shot down. Now, the IRGC says it has shot down another American plane. So there have been 7 that have gone down for various reasons. Only perhaps 2 have been shot down. by the Iranians. 3 went down to friendly fire, the others to accidents. But they have said they've shot down one of the planes that was involved in the rescue operation. Now the next question is, what kind of plane, where was it shot, and what happened to the pilot, and so on. So this is information that is yet to come in. What kind of plane was shot down, and what happened to the pilot, once again, and what is the result of it? Where is the plane? If it's been shot down near Isfahan, then surely the wreckage of the plane will be visible. Surely the pilot would have bailed out at that point. So all the results, all the information is yet to come in on this. Yes, the IRGC has said we have shot down one more plane that was involved in the rescue effort. But which plane, what happened to the pilot, where is the wreckage? All this information is yet to come in.
Absolutely, because that's a big claim that is coming from IRGC now. And this, as you also pointed out, is the war of narrative, because IRGC now is saying that they have shot down another fighter jet, the rescue jet that had come in, as far as locating the pilot is also concerned. Thank you so much, Srinjoy, for getting us all those details. Let me also bring in our guest, Air Vice Marshal P.K. Srivastava, defense expert, and Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. Thank you so much for connecting with us. I want to come to you first, Air Vice Marshal P.K. Srivastava. Sir, I want to ask you, you have experience in this domain. How complex are such missions? Because a lot has happened in Iran in the last 24 hours. 2 jets have been shot down, one in Iran, another in the Strait of Hormuz. Now the pilots have also been rescued from this area. How crucial and complex are these missions?
Ajansha, that's a very good question, and my compliment to you and to my co-panelist, General Kulkarni. I would like to say a few things. Whenever such an operation happens, rescue operation, and if it succeeds, we got him, is a good word, and I must compliment United States American forces to really have done it. And as an Air Force officer, I understand the meaning and the value of this. But you rightly asked, what are these steps involved in this? There are 2 parties to it. One is the rescue team, one is the pilot itself, or the airman himself. Now, it depends on 4 factors. First is survival. The airman was able to survive in a very, I would say, unknown, treacherous terrain, which was mountainous with ridges and all that, and keeping himself safe. That's the most important point. For that, he has certain items with him, but with that, making good use of that. So he has made very good use of his training of survival. After survival comes evasion. You have to evade the enemy forces who are closing on to you. There was an announcement on Iranian television, and there was one thing that really helped him was that Iran was denied any kind of satellite imagery, any kind of really command and control kind of setup which is there, because they were already very well bombed, and there was no air cover for this kind of operation for the Iranians to undertake. But in spite of that, that means he was able to evade the arrest by the local population. He hid himself, and he was able to transmit through his beacon. He was able to transmit through his SATCOM, which he has, which is, of course, secure SATCOM. And then comes the resistance. He had to resist in case he is being closed on. And I think that resistance came from the rescue team, which was trying to do this. There was Warthog aircraft in this, which is like a flying machine gun. It kept the people after they knew where in general area the airman is, the Iranian forces. They kept the Iranian forces at bay by bombing that area, by sanitizing the area, and then the helicopters went in and got him on board. And that's how he escaped. And this escape, professionally, I must compliment. It was a very professional operation. It was done it's a multi-layered operation. It was done very beautifully. The pilot, the airman who was, in enemy territory, and the people who rescued him, the team worked in coordination with full technology, with full kind of force level they have, and they extracted him.
Absolutely. I also want to bring in our defense expert, Sanjay Kulkarni. Sir, I want to ask you about the SERE technique, because we are learning that the pilot in question, he used this technique. This is survival, evasion, resistance and escape. He hid away from the wreckage. In fact, he hid on the elevated ridge is what we are learning so far, to evade the people who are looking out for him. Because most importantly, he had bounty on his head. If captured, it could have led to a hostage situation. Probably the war would have escalated. Could you explain to us about SERE technique that he may have used?
See, what happens is this particular point of time, $66,000, I understand, were being offered by the Iranians to anyone in the close by to be able to identify and to be able to catch him. Despite all that, the ability of the airmen to stay from all kinds of being detected during the day, make movements at night only, to be able to get on to an elevated area, be in touch with only his party, to ensure, because the Americans are obviously knew where he was, and then be able to sanitize the entire area, then to evacuate him from there, rescue him from there, despite what the Iranians are doing. I think it's something absolutely commendable. A professional job being done by the Americans. There is no denying the fact, should this operation have failed, again and again I said, should this operation fail, the entire, I would say the trajectory of these operations would have gone haywire. We would not have known, and the Americans especially would have been on total back foot. It is now the Iranians, despite the Iranian television having said that they have caught a man, they showed him on the television, they called him by the name of David. They asked for 10,000 Palestinians to be released, should they want this airman to be released. All that turned out to be false hoax by the Iranians. And the Americans having said, especially when the president himself has stated that they were able to rescue all of them. And through this SERE technique, obviously this is all that the pilots are totally trained. They are absolutely aware. The airmen know what is to be done. There's nothing that is left to any kind of guesswork. And then if there's total suppression, total sanitization of the area, but deep into the enemy area, obviously the air supremacy was there. The Americans knew that there was nothing that could come in their way of wanting to rescue this particular airman from there. And that is how, at this point of time, that you find that the Americans could rescue. And this technology, as what you're referring to, the pilot and the co-pilot and the airmen are fully versed with. And they know exactly when to open, when not to open, who are they in touch with, and how to evade the enemy, and to be in touch with only their people. And that is how he succeeded. I think it's a classic operation, something that the Americans can be proud of, the professional armies, the Air Force can be proud of, that yes, look, such an operation can be conducted deep into enemy lines, and at a time when whatever they're saying, you can grant there may be a lot of psychological pressures and all kinds of evasions and everything, but yes, grant the Americans the due, their professionalism, being able to rescue their airmen deep behind the enemy line.
Absolutely, and this is very interesting, the survival techniques that the pilots use to make sure that they are safe in the enemy territory. I would request both of you to stay on with us. We have another breaking update coming in. Even as the daring rescue unfolded, there was another hidden layer of this operation, a deception campaign. US media has been reporting that now reveals that CIA ran a covert misinformation campaign on the operation inside Iran to protect the downed airmen. The aim was to, in fact, it was quite simple. It was simple but critical. It was to mislead the Iranian forces, buy some time, to protect the target as well. According to the US reports, false signals were fed into the system, suggesting that US forces had already located the pilots in question and they were preparing extraction elsewhere. Now, this reportedly created a lot of confusion on the ground. While Iranian units were diverted, US special forces moved into the Iranian territory and the real location as well. At the same time, we are learning that intelligence, surveillance, cyber and space research were all working in sync, tracking the airmen and guiding the rescue operation as well. And the result is what we can see now. It was a window of opportunity which was enough for the US forces to close in, engage and also extract the pilot, which in fact were there in the Iranian territory. On that, let me bring in my colleague Mayank, who was there in the battlefield just a few days back. Mayank, put this into perspective. What has happened in the last 24 hours? The warplane was downed by Iran. It was in the Iranian authorities. Take us through this rescue operation and how complicated and complex the entire operation was.
So media on every side was abuzz. The world media was keenly watching this, whatever was happening. Only thing is, I would start by using a term which should, it's a sort of a coup. I mean, right. It's a different term, although, but in the sense that ingressing into an enemy area, which on ground is not known to you, and then extracting an officer, high value officer. I mean, who's a colonel, as the rank has been already announced by the president of the US, and extracting him out from a totally unknown area is a major feat. And just to bring a parallel here, we have a jungle and snow survival school, which means every fighter pilot is trained, is fully aware of the techniques of how to survive, how to then evade the enemy, and then there are ways and means, exercises, drills by which he's extracted out from that place. So one can understand the kind of a feat which has been performed. Now, having said that, it is an important operation in the sense that the way the details are coming out, that false signals to divert the enemy and to keep an eye on the particular high-value target is a major operation, and it creates a kind of a psychological upper hand for the US also. Now you can understand the morale, the kind of morale which has come up into the US forces, and also kind of a hit which has been now given to the Iranians, because it is a totally unknown area. That's important. And from there, they have taken out a high-value person. So the other point is, now we need to understand is that Iran has been talking about it. What kind of reactions has Iran been giving? Because that also gives lots of hints to the US forces, that what kind of forces they involved, what kind of a recce was going on in that area, what kind of a security blanket is into that area. Those all informations have also gone back with the US forces. Now that gives them another upper hand. In this case, let's say tomorrow a ground operation is started, because these things will add to the value planning and everything. So it gives a major boost to the US forces and a hit to the Iranians in this sense, because the officer has been extracted from their area, which is the Iranians' area. So one can understand the kind of a operation which has been carried out. Absolutely. And let us give it to the officer also who survived in this such a high tension area, had he been found out, because any enemy soldier who gets into the area, public begins by thrashing that person. And because they treat that person as an enemy, or they try to kill the person. So the kind of tension the officer would have been going through, psychologically, the person kept himself in hiding. That is another major feat the officer had performed.
Absolutely, and it is very important how the daring rescue operation was carried out. As you also mentioned, the deception campaign that was run. In fact, we're learning that dozens of aircrafts, most lethal weapons were sent in to the Iranian territory to bring out the pilots, is what Donald Trump has also elaborated on. I'll come back to you, Mayank. Once again, we have more inputs coming in as far as the rescue operation is concerned. We're learning that prior to locating the WSO, that is the Weapons System Officer, the colonel rank officer that is now who has now been rescued, and the US military daring rescue, the CIA first launched a deception campaign spreading word inside Iran that US forces had already found him and were moving him on the ground to bring him out of the country. While the Iranians were confused and uncertain of what was really happening there on the ground, the agency used the unique capabilities to search for and then find the American airman. This was the ultimate needle in the haystack, but in this case, it was a brave American soul inside a mountain that has now been rescued. Let me once again go back to Vice Marshal P.K. Srivastava. Sir, this is very interesting how the entire rescue operation was carried out. There was deception campaign as well. If we talk about Donald Trump, he was also very quiet on social media as far as the entire incident is concerned. he also later elaborated on why he was keeping quiet, because they did not want to mess up the entire operation that was in fact going on. How do you look at this, and do shed more light on the deception campaign that was run by CIA?
See, Akansha, it's like this. Americans already have the terrain mapping and the satellite imagery on a continuous basis available to them, and whatever changes happen available to them. This technology exists. So as far as Iran is concerned, it's completely mapped. They know each and every part of it, and they know it in centimeters. So you must understand, viewers must understand this part. And secondly, the kind of beacon you have, the kind of signaling or satellite, secure satellite communication you have, they also know their geolocation. It's something like a GPS, you running your car and you know where exactly it is and what kind of terrain is this. So this is available to Americans. And then when you do the deception, that means Iranians are not so much technology savvy, and this kind of information is not available to them on a continuous basis in real time. So you feed them different information as if the pilot is in some different place, and you make them believe that he's there away from the area where he is. Two things which really supported this operation. One was there was no air threat to either the operation which was being carried out or to the airmen on ground who were signaling all this, because there's just no air activity you would have seen from Iranian side. And second, which was there, was that they had no centralized communication going on after so many targets being destroyed, after leadership being destroyed, after headquarters being destroyed. Their continuous communication between the troops, because of the defense, what we keep talking about, mosaic defense doctrine, it does not give combined or synthetic communication to know exactly how the forces are moving. The third factor was they sanitized the whole area. When they finally in the real time reached over there with A-10 kind of aircraft, which is like a flying machine gun, and there's a concentration, and that is time when Black Hawks went down or winched him up. We do not still know. They sat down on the ground and then, or winched it, the kind of terrain which is there, I'm pretty sure he was winched up. So he came up on board and then they flew out. This is an operation which went down. The two things we supported very strongly. One was the satellite imagery on a continuous and real-time basis. And second is, where is my asset? He was a critical asset from even White House perspective. If this airman is caught or this officer is caught, imagine the kind of optics and the kind of things will go on, which happened in Somalia kind of incident in President Clinton's time. And that's a memory which Americans have not able to forget about it. Coming to this fact, which President Trump has claimed that this kind of daring operation has never happened. If you dig out, you'll find it happened few times in past also. Airmen have been rescued. It was in Kosovo, it was in so many other territories which are more densely populated. So, but this time it was done in a great professional manner, but I would say it was because of the deficiency on the part of Iran itself. But suppose this is to be undertaken in some other territory where the adversary forces, air forces are also active. They also have satellite imagery going on. They also can decode the beacon which is transmitting. Then it would be a different and very tough game.
Absolutely. And this is very important because after the rescue of this pilot in question, we're learning that the aircraft was also destroyed by the US military because they did not want Iran to access the tech and the secrets as far as this aircraft is also concerned. This was a very daring rescue operation that was conducted. It took 36 plus hours. I'll continue to get you more updates on this and keep coming back to our experts as well. We're taking a very short break. We'll be right back with much more updates on the other side.